Hello viewers, and today we're looking at a watch that's a gateway drug to another watch. The other watch obviously is the Rolex with the crown on its crown, and the gateway drug is the watch with the rose on its crown. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, that's the rose. The rose, as those of you know, is the Tudor Black Bay 58. There's two versions of the Black Bay. There's the regular Black Bay that came out in I think 2014, and I think it was in 2012 when Tudor really reintroduces its dive watches. And the other is the Black Bay 58 that came out in, this is a couple of years old, 2020 I think. So let's get some of these watches out of the way as we focus on the Tudor. So what makes the Tudor Black Bay such a special watch? A lot of people, some, would buy this because they want a Rolex Submariner. Now, I don't think you should really buy this because you wanted a Submariner, because, it's not a Rolex Submariner under any circumstances. I have a couple, and once you hold a sub in one hand and a Black Bay in the other hand, you'd realize they're completely separate watches. This is an unabashedly vintage watch, like my Seiko SLA, which is very similar here. This is a reissue of a watch from 1965. This is a new watch, but it's as good as a reissue in the cues that it has. Its design cues are 39mm, a very classic vintage size, and fairly short lug-to-lug length. I think it's about 47 or something. As you can see, I use my watches, so yes, there's already marks on it. Let's get it cleaned. Now, as the watch goes, it has plenty of fake vintage features. You see the rivets on the bracelets. Those are all fake. Those rivets don't do anything. We moved a long time ago from having these bad rivets to pins, collars, and screws. But we have to overlook all of those to understand what this watch is about. This watch is fundamentally about a very modern design on a very traditional watch. And it's a this is not a watch where they're trying to impress you with the features that they have. In fact, this is a watch where they got rid of features. You realize it does not have a date window. The movement has a date feature, but they chose to omit the date window just to make it look vintage, like the original Submariner that came out without its date window. I wish I could afford one of those, but I can't. Finishing, yeah, it's a good finish. It's not the greatest finish in the world. I know there are people who think the Tudor has the greatest finish, but really you have to hold a Grand Seiko in your hand to realize what good finish is like. But it's not bad. It definitely looks it's worth the money. It is a fingerprint magnet, so that's the problem with these polished bezels. In fact, let me pull out my SLA to compare it, because when you put them side by side, you would realize that, and I'll do another comparison video, that the SLA has a it's fairly apparent in the video that the SLA has a far higher level of fit and finish. But remember, the SLA is a Grand Seiko. The Tudor is made by Tudor. The Tudor company is owned by Rolex, but Rolex doesn't really make Tudors on the same production line that they're making their Submariners on, for example. The things that I don't like, I really don't like this bezel. The bezel on this, kind of hard to use. It's just so small, you just can't hold it. Compare it with the SLA 43. This is one of the nicest turning bezels that you can have in a watch. Far better than any Submariner bezel I've used. Now, I know people like submariners because they cost a lot of money, but money should not determine whether you like a watch or not. Yeah, sure, you dropped $8,000 on your submariner and you think it's worth a lot. It's a good watch, but it's not $8,000 worth of watch under any circumstances. The Tudor, on the other hand, I think you can now get these on the used market for $3,000, $2,500 if you're lucky. It's great value. You're getting about $3,000 worth of watch. It's got a good movement, got a COSC certified movement, about a couple of seconds accuracy a day, plus minus one. Has a 70-hour power reserve, got silicon springs, just like the Submariner, the new Rolex movements have, since I think maybe the late 2000s, early 2010, I don't remember the exact time. Rolex did have a big jump in the quality of their watches in about 10, 12 years ago. Because even till the mid 2000s, Rolex watches weren't really that great. I mean, sure, the name was there, but they weren't particularly great watches. And that's why, I collect a lot of Grand Seikos, because Grand Seikos were always better watches, pound for pound, compared to a Rolex. I know I'm going to get some flack from people for that, but, I say what I believe in. Now, this particular blue color, the first one that they come out with is obviously the black dial with the gilt finish. And that made sense for folks who were looking for the ultimate vintage watch. And they were basically living their dreams of buying, a Rolex from 1956, say. No date, perfect size, and so on and so forth. Except they didn't have, $50,000 to drop on a watch. But the reason I got this and not the black gilt dial is I have submariners that have the classic black dial. I don't need to show off that I'm living that submariner life. The blue edition Tudor comes out in the late 60s for the French Navy. They wanted a blue dive watch. And this, I think, looks very contemporary because the color is not referenced in the heritage. They actually did have the snowflake dial in the past where they did have the color, but that was part of the French Navy heritage that comes out. And I think the blue dial really makes it look very striking. It does not look like a copy of an old Submariner, and I like it for that. It has all the great details. One of the best details about it is how sharply it curves down. And the bracelet follows that exact same curve. And that, I think, is a brilliant detail. It's got such a beautifully integrated bracelet as a result, because they're able to match the curve, that I don't think I will ever be taking this watch off its bracelet. This is one of my very, very few watches that will always stay on a bracelet. Now, most people know I like to wear my dive watches not on the bracelet, but on either a NATO strap or a nice leather strap. But not this one. This one stays on the bracelet at all times. I've already talked about how great the clasp is. It is, I think, one of the nicest clasps that I've seen in a watch in a long time. Really got a great action with these ceramic balls. But please remember, these ceramic balls pop out. So even though it's a great clasp, it does not, it's not great in terms of durability. In terms of quality, it looks as a good clasp. But again, in my opinion, the Seiko 3-link Oyster bracelet is one of the best, if not the best, bracelet that there is right now. This has to be, I think this is the best bracelet in any watch that I've seen. It has the nice, the beautifully rounded on the edges, such a nice feel. Has a thickness and solidity that the Tudor just doesn't have. You look at it and you realize those are thin, you realize these are thick ones. So, is it worth the money? Absolutely. But don't think that you're getting a Rolex, because you don't want a Rolex. What you want is a Tudor. By itself, it's a great watch. One of the things I love about it is its aluminum bezel. It does not have a ceramic bezel, unlike a Submariner. And you don't necessarily sure it will get scratched. It's already getting scratched, and that's okay. This is a dive watch. Wear it, scratch it, enjoy it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll put another short video comparing this to an SLA, and I will see you on a later video. Thanks for watching.